You remember Donald Trump's inauguration from a few weeks ago, right? It was nothing like we had ever seen before. He had all the big tech bosses standing right behind him, from Microsoft's Satya Nadella to Amazon's Jeff Bezos. Even TikTok CEO Shou Chu was there. But you know who wasn't invited? Jensen Huang, the CEO of Nvidia, the American company that has been fueling the AI revolution around the world and in China. And then, just about a week later, the world was taken by shock when DeepSeek, a Chinese startup, launched its low cost AI assistant. Investors started dumping stocks, and the rest we know is history. Nvidia lost $600 billion of its market cap that day. As tragic as it may have been for the king chipmaker, it won't be a stretch to say that many tech companies must have secretly rejoiced. No one likes a monopoly after all. Unfortunately, though, taking on Nvidia is not everyone's cup of tea. It's going to take some muscle power, the kind that only big tech companies have. Just take Microsoft, for example. It wants to challenge Nvidia's monopoly in the AI chip market. In fact, it's already built two of its own chips, Maya and Cobalt. Why we are talking about this today is because of two things. Number one, Microsoft is essentially known as a software company, but now is doubling down on chip making, which is hardware stuff. And number two, fueling this effort is actually Microsoft's India unit. Earlier in January, when Satya Nadella was on an India tour, he announced a $3 billion investment for cloud and AI infrastructure in the country. This will include the establishment of new data centers. I don't know if you know this, but 20% of the world's chip design talent actually comes from India. So it comes as no surprise that the tech giant has been scouring Indian universities to gather a special army of engineers to target Nvidia's AI chip empire. Hello and welcome to a special episode of Daybreak, a business podcast from the Ken. I'm your host, Rahil Philippos, and I don't chase the news cycle. Instead, every day of the week, my colleague Snigdha Sharma and I come to you with one business story that is worth understanding and worth your time. In this special episode of Daybreak, I speak to the Ken reporter Abhirami G about how Microsoft has been taking on the Nvidia monopoly. Okay, so Abhirami, this story begins bang in the middle of placement week at, a few of the IITs. This new role suddenly pops up on the student placement portal, and turns out Microsoft is looking for silicon hardware engineers. Explain to me, as someone who hasn't been to an engineering college, why is this so unusual?
Basically, the fact is that, when you hear Microsoft, you think software. Like, about 90% of the people I reached out to in Microsoft didn't even know there is a hardware side of things, like a hardware role at all. So it is interesting to know that, okay, there is something going on here which is new, so new that even people in Microsoft don't know about it. It's a really large organization, and one side of it doesn't know what the other side does. So if people in Microsoft don't know about it, surely people outside also don't know about it much. Right. So that was where it kind of started, and uh, it was possible to get to this place through some digging, but it was a lot of digging.
Right, right. But can we talk about what role these engineering freshers were being hired for? Or what would they actually end up doing at Microsoft?
Okay, so the role that they were hired for is something called a silicon hardware engineer. A silicon engineer, basically, which sounds very fun, but I'm assuming it involves a lot of coding, which I cannot do. But basically, these are mainly electronics engineers, because these, their curriculum actually does cover this kind of thing.
The engineers that ended up being hired will join a team called Silicon Cloud Hardware and Infrastructure Engineering. It doesn't really roll off the tongue, but this team is close to 2 years old, and being part of it gives you a fair bit of street cred. In Microsoft India, these engineers will be just 3 reporting levels below the country head. So it's a pretty high level team compared to most others in the organization. Okay, but Abhirami, can you explain to me what they will actually be doing?
Essentially, like, from what I understand from people who do work in the like electronics engineering space and the chip design space, there is like a couple of different processes that go into like chip design, which is, verification, testing, and design itself. So chip designers, what they do is that they kind of like make a design for like what the chip would look like. And it sounds easy when you put it like that, but there's like so many like tiny circuits. There's so many things that go on in like a circuit, like at the microscopic level. So, there is a lot of work that goes into this. A verification engineer, their job is to kind of like stress test this. It's kind of like, you put this chip that you have designed for one specific use case through like many different like kind of like testers, like, see whether it performs in extreme conditions. Yeah, so according to like people I talked to for the story, you need 4 verification engineers for every design and, chip designer, which means that a lot of like, chip designers start off their careers probably as verification engineers, because like verification is like a lower level set of tasks to do. Like, freshers are mostly hired for like verification and testing kind of jobs.
So these recruits will be testing, verifying, and eventually designing chips that Microsoft will use for Azure, its cloud computing division.
A lot of companies have like armies of like verification engineers sitting in India doing all of the work that's being outsourced to them.
You see, these providers, the likes of Azure, Amazon Web Services, and Google Cloud Platform, have ended up becoming some of the most direct beneficiaries of the AI boom. Just take Microsoft's Intelligent Cloud division, which houses Azure and its AI services. Its revenues jumped 40% between FY22 and FY24 to cross $100 billion. Just to put that in context, revenues from all of its other business divisions combined increased only 13% to $140 billion in the same period. But there is one player that's preventing Microsoft and its peers from making even more money. I'm talking about NVIDIA.
The end of the day, like it's not like any of these companies really like that they have to like depend on Nvidia for this side of things, because Nvidia has a monopoly on the space. Like all the other players like AMD and Intel are like quite a bit behind Nvidia, and Nvidia is recognized as a market leader of sorts.
So the goal for the likes of Microsoft is to reduce dependence on NVIDIA. You see, NVIDIA's graphics processing units, or GPUs, are considered the best in the business. It is the only company that manufactures GPUs capable of handling high-speed workloads, which is great, except when an AI model is run on Azure using an NVIDIA GPU, Microsoft's margins drop to 15 to 20%. Compare that to a regular non-AI workload program on Azure's CPU. That would bring in margins of about 65% on average. So it makes sense for Microsoft to make its own chips. And it has. It's released 2 since 2023, Maya and Cobalt 100.
I mean, see, Microsoft has a clear purpose here, which is cost cutting. They want to like do, have their like processes run as cheaply as possible. And also, a GPU sometimes is overkill for a lot of things you want to do. So when that, I mean, like in that case, like it doesn't like hurt to have like a slightly lesser performing chip that cuts down on a lot of your costs. If you can kind of, make it like work cheaper than getting an NVIDIA GPU. Because of NVIDIA's business being a monopoly, they can kind of price it at whatever point they want. And that's not really helpful for like companies who want to cut costs. Like it works for startups and it works for like companies who, don't really like have an alternative but to like go with a provider. But I think for a big tech company that has the capability to source talent at the scale that it can, it makes sense for them to develop internally. And I think that's why Microsoft is doing this.
Okay. And, see, I know, I understand what you're saying about how it makes sense for them. I get that. But at the same time,
there is a kind of resentment that is growing within big tech against Nvidia, right? In
Oh,
many
absolutely.
ways.
And not just big tech. Like, I think the entire AI ecosystem of sorts. And, I think that resentment is in some ways well founded because, you are like, okay, it is the only player that's available for, if you want to do like cutting edge AI work. Like, there are still people who use AMD, but at the same time, a lot of it is for research purposes. You can't, and like, if you want to do like the fastest kind of or like most efficient kind of work, NVIDIA is still like the go to for most players. And I don't think anyone really wants to talk about this resentment openly because again, it's the same at the same time, they still depend on NVIDIA, you know. But at the same time, I can see, you kind of can see that there is like this undercurrent through like tech circles and
Mm-hmm.
you know, people do want alternatives.
So, yes, tech companies of all sizes have been grumbling about the Nvidia monopoly, but only big tech firms have the muscle to do anything about it, which is why Microsoft launched Maya and Cobalt in the first place. That team of engineers in the Silicon Cloud hardware and infrastructure engineering team will have a big role to play going forward. And now the stakes are even higher because NVIDIA isn't content with just being the preferred chip maker for AI workloads anymore. It's planning to launch a development environment of its own to write AI programs, essentially a serverless API.
Here, what NVIDIA means by a serverless API is that if you have an NVIDIA GPU, before this, you kind of needed it to be connected to something like an Azure or like an AWS to be able to use the capabilities of the GPU, especially if you're an enterprise customer. Because, uh, like you can't, like, a piece of hardware without like software to like use its capabilities is just a piece of hardware. Like, you can't really like do anything with it. And what NVIDIA is giving you the option to do with like a serverless API is that you can basically access the capabilities of the GPU without having like an intermediate development environment.
Okay.
So, you don't need to like have like the capabilities of an Azure or whatever to like run these kind of models. NVIDIA provides its own interface to you.
Now, this is bad news for the likes of Azure and AWS, the intermediaries, because it essentially cuts them out of the equation entirely.
And that is a threat to these guys because it brings different kinds of providers who have GPUs but don't necessarily have like the tech to build over the GPUs into the picture. And these are mainly cloud providers. Because cloud providers are the ones who have like this corpus of GPUs, the stockpile of GPUs just like, I won't say lying around because they are being used obviously, but it makes it much easier for them to approach customers and be like, hey, look, we have GPUs.
Mm-hmm.
NVIDIA is providing this kind of software layer. You don't really need to like, have like any kind of like AWS or Azure credits to use this because obviously like using these you're using like AWS or Azure kind of uses up money.
Mm-hmm.
Like you need to like have credits, it's a whole thing. So these cloud providers can be like, okay, we can like offer these to you at a competitive price, and that puts them in the running with like these big tech players as well, which is where like NVIDIA kind of sees an advantage because a lot of NVIDIA's business now comes from data centers.
So, for now at least, it looks like Microsoft's Silicon hardware engineers role will return to India's engineering college campuses next year as well.
Daybreak is produced from the newsroom of The Ken, India's first subscriber-focused business news platform. What you're listening to is just a small sample of our subscriber-only offerings.
A full subscription unlocks daily long-form feature stories, newsletters, and podcast extras. Head to theken.com and click on the red subscribe button on the top of the Ken website.
Today's episode was hosted and produced by Rahel Philippos and it was edited by Rajiv Sien.